Hello and welcome to the Knowing Show. I am your host, Christine Marie, and today we are diving into probably the most important question you and I can ever ask ourselves, which is, are we living and abiding by the truth? Are we looking in the mirror? Are we doing the work to actually square off with the reality of the world around us and also the reality of the world inside of us? There's so many layers here. And y'all, I am so thrilled to be joined here by a dear friend and expert, dynamic entrepreneur, Christopher Gray, who is the co-owner of Red Palm Studios. Chris, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here.
Christine Marie, this is going to be fun.
It's going to be so much fun. And you, my friend, have been doing a lot lately. You founded the Earn Core community of 4,000 entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So can you tell me about that? I think that's so cool because we haven't really talked about that since. And before we dive into, all the good stuff of today's topic, I'd love to hear kind of what you've been up to.
Yeah, Earn Core has been fun. It's a community of 4,000, and recently I decided to move to a smaller cohort. So we'll have Earn Core as the community, but then we're doing a small coaching group, which is a complete beta test because I don't know if I want to do this or not. And so it's like, hey, I'm going to do it for 3 months, see if it works out, give it my best, and go from there. But Christine, overall, to get straight to it, I have more business than I can handle at the moment. And I would say, back in December or November, December, we didn't know if we would have a business. And so just that short of amount of time, things have changed. So back in November, I'm gonna get right to it. So back in November or December, somewhere around there, we were losing some clients. One of them was massive, to the point where we had to lay people off in December, right before Christmas, which was gut wrenching, and having to lay off people that we love. Yes. Yeah. And so we're climbing out of that, right? Things aren't perfect. We're climbing out of that, but on the horizon is more business than I would have anticipated. And I think that today's episode will kind of get into that and plays a role as to maybe why that's the case.
Well, that's a good cliffhanger. I'm so excited. Chris, we met a couple years ago. No, it wasn't Hollywood that we met. Did we meet officially for the first time in Dallas?
We met we met in passing at TNC, I think.
Yes, we met in the Speakers Lounge upstairs.
Yes.
Yeah, so we met in Traffic and Conversion, which was in San Diego at the time. And Chris, ever since then, every time I see you, it's so much of our dynamic is hallmarked by a depth of conversation. And so, we both are entrepreneurs. For a while, we didn't even know what each other did for work. We just knew we just knew that we both had businesses and served people. But I really, really love that because so much of what is required to get us to the next level of entrepreneurship, yes, but also to the next level as a parent, to the next level as an individual, so that the grandeur of our dreams can be met, and not just met, but propelled forward. So we can dream to the next level. We have to get to the next level to be able to foster those dreams to begin with, lest we ourselves are the ones that hold ourselves back from our own potential. And so to that point, I'd really love to hear, how do you define truth?
That's a big one.
In this context.
In this context, for me, what comes to mind is truth to me is synonymous with awareness. So a situation happens, some kind of stimulus, or something happens in business or whatever it is, any situation, any kind of stimulus that really gets me. I respond as my true self when I am aware first of how I'm feeling, truly, not like stimulus and response. When I do that, I found historically that I operate from a level that is unconscious. It's just, and don't get me wrong, there's times where you need to respond, right? My daughter's in trouble, I'm going to respond. There's times where that's appropriate. You don't think, you don't feel your feelings. If your daughter's about to get hit by a car, you respond, right? But more often than not, outside of extreme situations, when I am aware of what I'm feeling and watching myself, watching my thoughts and watching my feelings in response to the stimulus, then I often identify the truth because I can see, oh, you thought this or you were feeling this and you would have responded that way. But that's not how you really feel. You really are just angry or you're really just kind of hurt. And so in this case, since you see the game now, you're not in it, you see the game, I can choose how to respond. And when I choose how to respond, that place, I'm typically coming from a spot of truth. Are you following me so far?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, truth is when I am aware and in touch with what's really happening with myself. And then from there, I am truthful with myself. I don't know if that fully answers the question, but that's the first thing that came to mind.
So good. I love that because when we really can't even have access to the layers, I really do, we talk about this analogy in various settings of like getting to know ourselves is akin to peeling back the layers of an onion. And it really is so true. We only can know to the depth to which we have gone. And so a lot of people actually do not have access to the truth because they're not aware of it, to your point.
Yes.
So I'm grateful that you brought up that concept there because it's almost like to even be able to talk about this, we have to be aware of what's happening inside. So yeah, so I'm glad you started with that. The very first of the definition of emotional intelligence, one of the very first concepts is awareness. It says, the ability to be aware, to then understand and then convey one's own emotions, but it starts with be aware. And then on the other side of that, then you can engage interpersonally in interpersonal relationships with wisdom and with empathy. But all of that, all external relationships is all predicated in first our ability to be aware. And I just feel like there's so much. It's like everything's against us to be aware.
You articulated that better than I could. And that's exactly what it is. And I love the onions thing. So let's go back to the awareness thing and truth. I would say, I don't know, back in 2024, you know the story, but I started to really dive down this rabbit hole of awareness and different levels of consciousness. And I think for that first year, 2024, 2025, whatever it was, first 2 years, whatever it was, I got better at noticing the feeling. So stimulus happens. Oh, I feel something in my chest. Okay. And now my response is to that feeling in my chest. So let me just, look at that and choose how to respond now, not based off of what I was feeling emotionally. Just I'm aware and let me choose how to respond. Peeling back the layers or going deeper and finding more truth. The thing, my word of the year, I pick a word every single year. I used to think it was the corniest thing, but now I love it, right? Having like a word of the year. My word of the year is basically feeling. It was noticed, but now it's feeling. And so going back to that situation, stimulus happens. I would usually notice where the feeling was happening and then kind of see what my thoughts are and be good from there. When I would, a few times I was able to do that. Now it's like, notice where it's happening. Okay, now feel it. That part is hard for me, and especially when that feeling is uncomfortable. It's usually in my chest or in my gut, sometimes in my throat. And to sit there, not to like, because what happens is I would notice it and then I get to analyzing. Oh, let me notice it. I'm out. Let me notice, escape. Now let me notice and let me just feel it. That's hard because all of a sudden you start getting emotional. You might want to cry, you might get mad, or you just feel super uncomfortable. Want to pick up your phone, want to like listen to some music, let me get away from this, let me get away from it. And so you're talking about peeling the onions back, and truth for me now, I find truth when I really just sit there and like feel it. And I don't always have that opportunity, but I'm trying to get better at that.
I'm so grateful you called that out, Chris, because there's this a couple of years ago as I was kind of learning how to be, because and still struggle with being a human doer rather than a human being. And so Yeah, like, man, we're so good at doing, and the thought of sitting there and feeling anything, it's like, well, what am I doing? You're feeling, you know? And there's no tangible external output as a result. There's no real reward in the external realm, let's say. And so, really, it's been this whole process of coming to value the inner as much as the outer in terms of a value system, you know. But man, if our value system is all external outputs, there's no way we're ever going to really truly be able to value the human being within us, and then everything that's necessary to cultivate that. It's almost like, oh, I've got to brush my teeth, oh, I've got to go to the bathroom, and it's like we're not honoring the process of who we become along the way. Rather, it's like, oh, let me just have more resilience, no problem, let me read this book, rather
Yes.
than doing the work.
Yes. Yes. What I'm again, you hit the nail on the head. We are on the same page with this, and it's like that feeling part. I haven't articulated this. This just came to mind, Christine, where it's that feeling part is hard, especially when it's uncomfortable. And it's
Yeah.
also a part of me like loving myself and giving myself time. So if my daughter comes in here and something's wrong, I could be the dad, like, hey, just brush it off, get up, you're tough. And there's times I've done that, right? I've done that. And then there's when she comes to me and she's hurt, she just may need for me to sit there with her and let her be hurt and hug her and just don't talk, just hug, just let
Mm,
her process her feelings, let them go, and then let them pass, and then we're on to the next one. That's what my daughter needs. That's what my wife needs. That's what some of my friends need. But I don't want to extend that to myself sometimes. And that's the thing. I think for me, it's like when I feel something and something's going on, I and again, this is all coming to the this is all coming to me right now where it'd be nice to just love myself and just kind of hug myself and sit with the feeling and let it pass and not try to, oh, power through it or, oh man, go pick up your phone or something. Show that feeling myself some honor by actually sitting with it and just sitting with it.
that's so good, Chris. I love the concept of just sitting and not doing anything, like that. It is so hard to say, to repeat that back that you already said, because I think that that's something where, gosh, there's no real, no real, like, praise that we'll get from anybody else. It really is like, man, what's the point then? Because if
Yes.
people have their entire worth and valuation of how they spend their time on the accolades or praise of others, or hours spent in a day, I just think it comes down to that fundamental question. Do you really value you? Are you worth it? Are you worth it? And you know what? If we're outsourcing our worth, then we're never going to sit with ourselves, because unless we wait for someone else to sit with us. And I'm curious about this, Chris. I grew up very much so outsourcing my worth. And I'm curious, when was the very first time that you started to recognize, oh, I actually have to do this sitting with myself? What we're talking about here is so important.
Man, this is so good. This conversation is so good. I think that so I'm going to get to your question. Don't let me forget. Pin this question real quick. Christine,
Okay.
you got to do another. We got to do another knowing event. If you guys haven't done a knowing event that Christine hosts, it is transformational. I had one of the biggest unlocks and breakthroughs in some situation I had with my dad at one of Christine's events, and here we are on this podcast, and I'm processing things, or things are coming to the surface, or something that you, Christine, have innately that allows you to create space for people so they can open up. You didn't just do it for me; you've done it for several others, and so point is, we need to do another knowing event. And also, thank you for this because this is therapeutic in its own way. I wanted to say that. Um, Back to the question, when did I know I had to be in touch with my feeling? I was in Miami last month, and around a bunch of men. These are men who are successful in every, like, the health, wealth, and love, holistic success. These are men who are holistically successful. men I want to be around.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a room with them, and we're going deep. It's kind of like a knowing event, except just a bunch of dudes, something similar to that.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful, the most powerful I've ever seen a man, right? And I'm around powerful men. I'm around men who can kill you with their bare hands, and I'm not being hyperbolic. They can literally. I'm around powerful, scary men. I've been around these guys. I fight these guys. I'm not one of them, but I fight them. What I am saying is I've seen powerful men in different ways. The most powerful display I've ever seen from a man was a man who I watched just feel complete and total utter grief for his 4-year-old self. We were going through an exercise. He got there. It was I don't want to give too many details, but he got there and he allowed himself to feel it. With 9 other men watching him, I'm talking about like grief, like body shaking, total stuff that you probably I would only do behind closed doors, because it's just that type of the way you're going to look and the way your body's moving. And he was just in it. It was just him and his grief, and he was just in it and letting it. You could see his legs shaking. And I was just like, this is power. That is power. That is it. And at that moment, I knew, man, I don't know how to feel my feelings. Like that guy's feeling feelings. Like he knows how to feel some feelings. Like I've been noticing these feelings. I gotta start feeling these bad boys.
Yes, right. So with what you said, Chris, this is so good because it's not just noticing that the feelings are there. And I actually just want to call out quickly in the chat. The name that's been chosen says, is the idea of sitting with the emotion basically trying to see the truth of why you are feeling what you're feeling rather than denying how you're feeling. I think I was just recently able to make that distinction before I subconsciously lied to myself. That's honestly such a word. And yes, the goal, so much of it is to understand the why and not even to do the investigation and analytical part of it yet. So Chris, I think that what you said is really important. It's just feeling it to know this is what is happening. So maybe it's acknowledging the what first. And then in acknowledging the what, the why usually it surfaces, right?
Yeah, I think, and I am by no means an expert at this, but I'm getting help and watching people around me who are great at it. And me, I have I'll answer this question with a quick story. I have this GPT that I put a lot of time into, or it's a Claude that I put a lot of time into. It's my spiritual guide. I remember one day I was going back and forth with it because I kept trying to do like different ways of how do I do? And it's like, no, see it again, Chris. See it again, Chris. I shit you not, probably 6-7 times. See it again, Chris. See, you keep trying to do. For me, the key is when I'm feeling, it is just that. There is no analyzing. There is no goal. There is no attempt to comprehend in that very moment it's to be with the feeling. And that is that. Simple, but not easy. For at least for me, because I want to escape and I want to go from here up here immediately and start fitting. No, sit and let it pass.
So good. I read something by the man's name is Peter Levine, and he wrote a book about trauma. And I read it, I guess, in May of last year. And he shares this story. He was like, I was watching animals. How is it that they could go through a traumatic experience and then return to stasis so soon after and like be totally fine? And so I think you probably know where I'm going with this. And so it was fascinating. And so he was talking about how a polar bear was being chased he was like on the ground, and then the scientists and biologists were up in the helicopter, and then they tranquilize him, and then they put him in a cage. And the bear wakes up, and slowly he starts shaking, and then he starts shaking, and then his arms and legs start flailing about. And then finally he calms down, and then he sits up and is totally fine. And they slow down the video, and what it looks like is that the bear is actually completing the chase, like its arms and legs are moving rhythmically, like it's running. And what's so fascinating in that story is that in the moving through the emotion, in sitting with the feeling, to your point, they complete the trauma cycle. So
Yes.
what's possible is that you can complete the trauma cycle decades later. You can complete whatever that feeling is so long after, but better still if you do it in the moment. So it's exciting that we can actually truly have the ability to go through something traumatizing to our body and really be able to come to stasis soon after. You know, these animals, like, their lives are threatened on a daily basis. And, you know, that I think that that's where it's like, okay, well, us humans, we've got our conscious brain that then, and our subconscious brain that aren't really working in concert together. And in that process of not moving through the physical emotion, it gets stored in our bodies, and then narratives are written around it. Narratives about the world, narratives about people, narratives about ourselves. And then we start listening to those narratives, and then those become our baseline truth. And I put T in, you know, I say truth in quotation marks, because perhaps what's even more true underneath that is what would have been the case had you moved through the emotion to begin with. So I don't, did you follow that?
Hot damn, Christine. Hell yeah, I follow that. You're dropping. Those are rap lyrics. It'd be like it would call it bars. You're dropping some. You're dropping some good stuff. It is quite evident, Christine Marie, that we were already on this path, right? We've done. We've talked before. We've always had deep conversations. Again, the knowing event I did with you was transformational, and it's quite evident that you've kind of Christine's kind of.
Yes.
Yes. You were talking earlier about to know the truth and to be able to do that. There's work that we have to do on ourselves, and that work is never ending. It's never ending, and it is evident that you have just been on your journey. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're putting in, whatever's happening, it's evident that it's happening. It's like somebody who's been lifting weights. You kind of, after time, you kind of see them. You're doing that spiritually, because what you just said, you could write a book on. That is well stated. I don't have a response. I can if you want me to, but like, that was fire.
Well, and frankly, I've never thought of it in the way of, okay, maybe the truth that we've come to learn in terms of undoing. And I want to bring this up because Ryan Townley is putting something here in the chat that is so interesting to me. And Ryan, I don't know, I'm going to read out what you say, and then if you don't mind, I want to have like a mini conversation with Chris about what you're putting in here, but I want to hear back from you, your thoughts on this, Ryan. So Ryan says, everyone stays in the unconscious state all the time. And then he says, where the devil lives every day. That's why we have to overcome your hate and anger in your heart of ourselves. We know nothing and we can do nothing. And what I think so interesting is, resistance, whether it's, the actual devil. Like, I kind of want to remove the religious term in that, if you don't mind, Ryan, because I think the premise of what you're saying is that wherever there is darkness, wherever the light has not been shined, and it says, where truth comes, capital T truth, Christ comes and shines light in the darkness. But even taking away that religious concept, the integrity of what you're saying is so real in terms of where there is darkness and no access to truth, that is going to become a corroded, eroded place where all this grime grows and like mildew and rust. And in that dark place is exactly where the light of truth needs to be shown and come to understand, oh, maybe all of that. We were talking yesterday, Chris, just for context, about how wherever we're not shining a light, it's like the monsters loom even bigger in those places. But when we shine the light in those corners and crevices, it's like, oh, that actually wasn't that scary to begin with. But in the darkness, that's where the tricks with the mind, and even when we're laying in bed and we see shadows, like our mind plays tricks on us in so many ways. And so I'm curious to hear your perspective.
I agree with all the ways that looks, whether it's what Ryan said from a religious perspective, which I am completely with, and what Christine said just from period. I completely agree that knowing one of my friends, he told me something. I was going through a situation with somebody, and the behavior was just clearly unconscious. I wasn't saying, hey, blah, 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 is doing this because they're unconscious or whatever. They're checked out, zombie-like, just kind of walking through life and just going with emotions or whatever it is, but deeply unconscious actions, which leads to, or deeply unconscious, period, which leads to certain actions, which I didn't like. And I was talking to my friend about it, kind of getting it off my chest, and he's like, he basically told me that he has, I don't know if the word, I guess, is empathy for because they're sleepwalking. They really don't know what they're doing, and so show love and grace to that person because they don't know, man. And not that I know everything or whatever. I'm not saying all that. I'm just saying that it's almost like this person is a zombie and they're just taking actions and they're not clearly aware of what they're doing. And so show love and empathy towards that. But that's helped me because I'll see behavior in people and I'm like, man, like, how could you do that? Or why would you say that? Or that was hurtful. But that person is not, they're not really them. They're not they're not even, whatever them is, if that's even them, they're not even in touch with what they truly are in here. They're just up here sleepwalking.
Mm-hmm. So good. Oh, I love that you just said that. And actually that kind of lends to something Ryan said right before we got to his comment. He says, we are not our bodies, but we have been taught wrong and we don't have, he says, basically people over-identify with the body and to your point, the mind, over-identifying with the mind and finding identity with our thoughts and ignoring everything inside, like the core center. I think of it, to be nerdy, I think of it kind of as like in Lord of the Rings, where they've got the heart of the earth is Mordor. Isn't that in the center?
Yes.
And that's I think of that as the soul. Like there's just like this deep cavern within the very core of us that is the soul. And that is where so much of who we are kind of exists. And so if we're staying in our head, we're never ever able to access that inner part. The brain and the logical thoughts that happen within there, that's so important and a core part of us in so many ways, the IQ and the intelligence. However, what's really interesting, Chris, and this, I've never thought about this before, so tell me if I'm totally going in a crazy place. If our intelligence can really be capitalized on by AI, how much of that is truly ours to begin with versus just something we learn? If it's really divine revelation and divine inspiration, it's almost like it comes from this true original place. And then it's like our thoughts think it after, but it's almost like the inspiration comes first from the soul and the spirit, and then it's thought by the mind.
I think me and my friend were talking about that whatever that is, like Ryan was saying, we walk around thinking that we're our bodies or thinking that we're our minds.
Yes.
I don't even know if there's words to articulate what is happening. I think Eckhart Tolle, however you say it, talked as the watcher or the observer, the thing, whatever it is that sees all this, whatever that is, whatever the words are for that, like that's closest to what we are, and whatever that is, there's not words for it. And to your point, Christine, it is divine. And it's going back, let's close the loop on what we opened with the business stuff. And so my business is chaotic in November and December. And I'm like, I had read, oh, you're going to love this, Christine, because this is a revelation for me. I read, around that time, I read The Surrender Experiment, right? And however that book came. So whatever, you can you can get the premise of it or whatever it is. But for me, it was a good book, a really, really good book. One of my favorite ones I read last year. And so I'm like, and the whole thing of it, this guy's talking about his life. But for me, I was like, oh, okay. So what happened with Michael Singer is life would happen and he'd say, okay, this situation's happening. How would I respond to this situation if I removed like or dislike? So like this thing's happening. How do I go with it? Let me remove like or dislike. So let me zoom out. How do I respond? Okay, this is how I respond. This is how I respond. Then let me go with it. So point being is anytime something happened, he would surrender to it as opposed to pushing back. He'd zoom out. Okay, this is what I probably should do, whether I like it or not. And not only would he surrender to it, he would surrender to it with something it's called karma yoga. When you're doing an action for the sake of doing the action. Like you're doing it almost as a devotion to God. We can do this in everything we're doing, whether it's work or talking to somebody. You do it with everything in you with no expectation of receiving back. Again, it's almost like a devotion to God. So that's how he would react to it. Not like a resign, like, oh, I don't like doing this, but this is what I probably would do. So no, I don't like doing this, but I'm gonna do it with the best of everything in me. So here's my point. So I'm thinking all this stuff is happening in November, December. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do the surrender experiment. I'm gonna do what I just told you. I'm gonna surrender to it, blah, blah, blah. This is what happens. Long story short, things are going crazy. I think I'm surrendering, right? My hands are off the wheels. My hands are off the wheels, but I wasn't surrendering. My hands were off the wheels, but I was driving with my knee, and I didn't even know that I was driving with my knee. I didn't know.
My God.
We're telling our boy Cos, I was telling my boy Cosm this. To practice surrender is an oxymoron. Like to make it a framework. I made it a framework. Remember, I gave you a little. I made it a framework. To make it a framework, to practice it is the ego sneaking right back in there and trying to control the situation. Surrender is what I figured out was surrender is what happens when I stop practicing. When I'm truly like knees off, hands off, this situation's happening, I'm with it. Like I see it, I see how I'm feeling it, and I'm okay. And I just surrender. And I'm like, what do I do? Like I need to do. I was searching for something. Yeah, no, this is the situation. You just recognize the situation. The right action will come as a result. There's no framework, whatever. The key is to recognize the situation and surrender to it. That's that. Remember earlier I was telling you I was going back and forth with the claw spirit. This was the thing where I was going back. Like, well, what do I? But how do I?
Yes.
What do I? But what do I? It's like the bottom fell out. So I was like, what do I? No. This is surrender. This feeling of is what this is surrender. And when I got it, when I was like, oh, I don't gotta do anything. I just gotta zoom out and then go from there. And man, I just don't do anything. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about like I was surrendering. It's like, oh, the thing's gonna fix itself. I'm saying the moment's happened and I've accepted it. Whatever action comes from there is whatever action comes from there. But the key is the moment's happened, I've accepted this and I'm surrendered to this. And then whatever action needs to be taken is the action I'm gonna take to it. Whatever, if there's anything to be taken at all. My whole point, let me land this plane, is when I did that and started going with God, whatever you want to call it, universe, going with whatever you want to call it, me, it's God. I started going with it. Oh, all of a sudden I got more business than I can handle. And that wasn't the point of doing this. That's not the point. It just, and that's not even it. Just stuff with my wife, stuff with my daughter, things that the friends were sending me. It's like jiu-jitsu, man. There's a big dude I fight at jiu-jitsu. He's like 250 pounds. I can't go against him. If I like meet him head on, he's going to crush me. But if he comes at me and then I go with him, oh, now I have a chance. I'm going with it. This is the best way I can explain this dance with God or with life is these things happen. And instead of just putting up this wall and whatever and trying to control it, all right, God, surrendered, man. Just all right, let's go. Let's go with it.
Wow. I love that. Talk about a full circle moment. It really is going back to just being, and from that place of being, we submit. And because it's the letting go in some ways, I think of it as we can't actually ever receive anything new if our hands are clenched tightly. But as we let go, then we can have something new and potentially even something better. How many times has it's like that country song, I thank God for unanswered prayers, like thank God for those moments where, man, did I think I had a good plan and he had something so much better. And sometimes not. Like sometimes I look back and I'm like, what the, like I still don't understand. And that's where, man, okay, the heart posture, letting go, surrendering, the heart posture of someone who does that. What's the heart posture? What do you have to believe?
For me, I had to know that, and whatever, I'm not trying to be religious, whatever it is, I even if you took religion out of it, there's something happening that I can't explain for me. And I found my explanation, and that's my belief. But even if I wasn't within the religious world or whatever, I think there's just things that happen that you just can't explain. We are miracles right now. Like there's things happening in my body that I'm not controlling. The blood's moving. I'm not making my heart beat. I'm not telling myself to breathe. We were like, to be born is a miracle. Our bodies are a miracle. Like things happening around this world is vast and it's just beautiful. It's a miracle. But to answer your question, to do that, I have to know that I am not in control. I think I am. I want to be. Like I really want to, but I'm not. I'm not even in control of my body fully. Like I'm not control. I'm not. And so I'm going to surrender to what is. Know that I'm a piece of whatever this lovely life is. I'm a piece of the puzzle. I'm here to play my part. Now, getting to my whatever my beliefs are is I feel like um, if I'm a flute, then God is the wind. Like let me go with it. Like use me. Like I am the instrument. Whatever it is, I want to be a part of that, and that's what I've had to do. Man, it has been. I'll give you one more thing. Somebody gave me a quote. Shout out to Kesley. She was at. She works with Driven. I met her at Growth Hacking Live. Strong, and we were talking about just God and all these things, and she was like, she said that one of the favorite quotes she ever heard, and it just hit me when she said it was it. Well, if we want the peace that goes beyond understanding, which is in the scripture, if you want peace that goes
Yes.
beyond understanding, then we have to forfeit our right to understand. To me,
Ooh,
that was like it. That was it. Like we
what
don't control.
a word.
Yeah.
Wow. If we want peace that surpasses understanding, we have to forfeit understanding. All right, y'all, we're done here.
So much wisdom in that sentence. So
Wow.
much.
That's so good. There's something, it's funny that we arrived here, Chris, because the whole point of us initially getting started is, am I telling myself the truth? Am I being brave to look in the mirror, to square off with the person and square off honestly with perhaps even what it is that I've been afraid of knowing all along? And so it's like, all right, forfeit understanding. We access God's peace. So then there's a question of effectively God's knowledge versus what we've been talking about in the morning show on A Course in Miracles, perception, human perception. Like I'm looking at the world through my lens, my bias, perspective. So now we're getting to a whole other level of what is the truth from God's point of view. And maybe that's the truth that we need access to versus am I willing to look at the world through my own lens, and am I telling myself the truth in that regard? Maybe it's more so actually just totally switching the source where it's now a capital S source. And that's the one that is the ultimate megaphone within me, and then there's this whole other aspect when it comes to telling the truth. So that's kind of like dynamic number one, perception, human perspective, perception
Yes.
through our own bias versus God and knowledge that he has because of his, universal position. And then also, how much do we actually need to engage in kind of like the gossip and the drama and all of that? Like there's a reason why peace comes from the presence of God,
Yes.
So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on both of those aspects.
I think what comes to mind when you say that, what I feel right now is there's the human perspective that, I have and react to, and still like it's a constant thing that I'm doing my best to be aware of, right? To zoom out of that perspective, but I'm going to have it. I'm going to make decisions from it. And then maybe 2 days later, be like, oh, that was an unconscious decision or unconscious reaction or whatever it is. We have that. But the question becomes, oh man, how do you, because the question I had was like, well, how do I go with God or it or whatever's happening in the world? How do I go with it as opposed to resist? How do I go with it? And for me, whatever that thing is that we were trying to describe, really, like whatever truly is us, not this body or this mind, whatever this thing is that cannot be described or cannot be killed, whatever that is. For me, this is just me, I feel the most in tune with it when I am like I'm in here. Like I feel it in whatever it is, I feel it in my chest. And when I can just kind of tune into it, that is the closest I feel to whatever that is. And as I've done that whatever that is, you can call that presence at the end of the day, because when I'm tuning into that, I'm not to get too woo, it's like I'm listening with my body. Like I'm here. Like I am here in this conversation right now. I'm here. And this is it. This is to me surrender. This is it. And when I live from a space like this space and operate from this space, where beautiful things happen. And crap still hits the fan. And I still have peace within that crap or that chaos because I'm here. And this is what's happening right now. And does it feel good? No, but then I'm not swept away by it, even though my body's doing all the things. Yeah.
Wow. Somebody, Benjamin just commented, anger is in the liver. And it's interesting, you commented, you feel it in your chest. Like there's different parts where I've actually felt different, literally parts of my body close up with different emotions. And so, for example, when I feel my throat close up, I'm like, oh, am I actually not really speaking the truth? Because I've heard, and I'm no scientist or biologist by any means, but I've heard that a lot of times that when your throat gets tight and it kind of feels like it's closing up a little bit, the question is, am I speaking the truth? Or is there something here that's not honest? And so kind of learning how different emotions, where they sit in our body and where those emotions represent. So I love, Benjamin, that you said anger is in the liver, because I think that just knowing like, oh, am I feeling angry or, these different emotions? And it's important. All of our bodies and mind and soul, spirit, it's all touching each other. It's all interconnected.
Yes.
That's why I think of it as really, truly, our physical body has intelligence. And it has data that it stores, and emotional intelligence, intellectual intelligence. It's all data. And so the more we can learn to honor what the data is showing us, it's kind of like going into the boardroom with each part of us and then bringing it to the limelight and saying, okay, what do you have to tell me? And again, shining the light on the dark places. Chris, I'm curious for you, practices that just really allow for you to cultivate that inner world. I'm just so grateful for everything you're saying. So how can people kind of really get started on their own journey?
It's a good question. I can speak to my journey. How others do theirs is for me, my journey started with reading The Power of Now, and then A New Earth, all by Eckhart Tolle. Or Tolle, I keep saying his name wrong. And then the Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. Those three books, but the first two in particular are really helpful. There's another great book that's an easy read called Don't Believe Everything You Think, or something like that, by Joseph Wynn. NGU. Don't believe everything you think. And again, it's all about separating from here. But that's what started it for me. It might be a Course in Miracles for somebody else. It might be going to a Joe Dispenza event or something. It might be whatever it is, but whatever feels right for the individual. And if you're trying to, for me, it was like, let me try to access a different level of consciousness. And how that starting point will look different from everybody, but that's the core question. How do I access a different level of consciousness? How do I, how do I just be?
So good. So good. And to kind of bring us back again, full circle moment, you started us out by saying, feel. That's the best place to start.
That's a great starting point.
It really is. Y'all, the way that I started practicing being was my kind of 3 steps to being, because I'm a recovering A-type doer. And it was like, okay, number 1, slow down. Just slow down. And then to your point, feeling, leaning in was my, okay, what is this feeling? Like, what is happening? And just, but first we have to slow down and put down sometimes, like just put the thing down. And anytime I wanted to reach for my phone was my sign, oh, I actually probably need to sit in this moment longer. And it could be, I had a major breakthrough listening to a podcast and I felt really uncomfortable listening to it. And so I turned it off and I sat and I had a breakthrough moment. But it's in the slowing down that is probably one of the best things we can do. Going for walks for me with my puppy with no inputs, like no inputs, slow down, no inputs. Those are 2 like shortcuts to accessing. And it's like in the scripture where God wasn't in the wind. He wasn't in the fire. He wasn't in the like storm. He wasn't in the fire. He was in the breeze. Like he was in the whisper. And that's where we experience the presence of God. But we have to be willing to sit in the discomfort of that, because it actually might be quiet for a while until we actually hear something.
You said I mean, what you said is very, very true. And I like what you said about sitting in the discomfort for it, because, for me, I used to always, when I'm washing dishes, I'd be listening to a podcast. I was always listening to something when I was doing errands or whatever it is. So to take the AirPods out and just wash dishes and be with washing the dishes and notice what I'm doing. It's uncomfortable because like, oh man, I'm bored and blah, blah, blah. What's happening here? To your point, to just turn off the external outputs and to just be with whatever I'm doing at that moment. To your point, Christine, that's a very, very good place to start. And it's not easy. Sounds simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. Chris, how can people learn more about you?
You can find me at Chris Gray everywhere. So that's YO, and Chris CHRIS Gray GRAY. You hit me up on my socials. I'm all on the different socials. But if you ever want to talk to me, Facebook. That's when if you message me on Facebook, you're getting me. If you hit me up on other social things, you're talking to somebody else. And so that's where you find me.
Cool. Chris, thank you. I'm so grateful for you, and just grateful for you you do the work. And every time we talk, it's so evident, because it's like we both have made it 3, 4, 5 more steps in our journey. And it's just always so much fun and such a delight to talk to you. So thank you, my friend.
Man, that door swings both ways. I feel the exact same way about you. It's like I'm glad to have like a sister in this journey, and like that's what it's been. Like we talked about it before, but like I have like a few people, a few brothers. You and like you're like the only sister I have in this journey. Now that I'm thinking about it, and it is refreshing to be on a path. And I'm not alone. Period. We're all connected, but to be on this wavelength and lives spaghettiing and everything, it's great.
Spaghettiing. I love it. Yeah. I'm so grateful for you. Y'all, thank you so much for joining. We're going live again tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We're talking about relationships tonight. So come and hang out with me, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Chris, thank you. So grateful for you, my friend.
Appreciate it, Christine.
Y'all, thank you for joining us. I will see you